How's it going, everyone? This is SoulSinged here, and this is going to be my first video on BattleBots that I've made in quite a while. For those of you who know about my channel, I mostly make videos talking about music, hip-hop in specific, and I also make music. So if you're new to the channel and want to check some of that out, please check out my channel. But today we're going to be looking over all the robots that are going to be competing in the 2021 season. BattleBots has now officially released who will be competing on their Facebook page as well as their official website. So without further ado, let's just get straight into this. Now, one thing I do want to make note of is there are quite a few teams this year who are coming to BattleBots with more than one robot, and there aren't quite as many new teams like we usually see. Usually there's a good chunk of the field that are completely new teams, and we do have a good bit of new teams, but just not quite as many as we usually see. There's also some big teams, some big bots that are not returning. Axe Backwards, for example, has been in, I think, all the seasons, starting in season 2 or 3. They didn't make it, and Chomp is also not competing, and we don't have any walkers this season. Last year, Chomp was the only one, and Chomp is not competing this year, so we have no walkers. Now, without further ado, let's just get straight into this. And before we start going through what's on their website, I do have to discuss one robot in particular who is on their Facebook page as a competitor, but is nowhere to be. That robot is Triple Crown. Now, I don't know if this is just a mistake on BattleBot's end, with them not being included on their official website, or if they're like a reserve bot that didn't compete, or if they never actually functioned and weren't able to compete, which doesn't really make sense because in the past they've had robots that have never competed still listed as competitors. For example, season 2, they have Helichopper listed as a competitor, and as we all know, it was too dangerous and never actually got to fight, but is still listed as a competitor on their website. Same with a few season 1 bots. But Triple Crown is a very, very interesting robot. Apparently the two pods on the sides where you see this sort of plow and spinning blade, those can be changed out with different weapons. And they have a very, very unique drive system. From what I understand, those are wheels that can rotate 360 degrees and can travel in basically any direction, similar to Omni wheels, except they're supposed to have better grip than Omni wheels. So not sure how well this is going to work, if it works at all. I don't really see this one doing too well. It looks like it could very easily take one hit and just start having pieces ripped off. Okay, so with that out of the way, we can actually go on to talking about the rest of the robots that are competing in this year. Now, I'm not going to be going over every single one in a lot of detail. Some of the ones I'm just going to kind of skim over if I don't have a lot to say. So, yeah. First up, we have Big Dill. This is their second year competing, and the robot looks fairly similar to last year. I don't have a whole lot to say. They have changed a few things, but yeah, don't have much to say there. Black Dragon is returning. They're one of the top competitors. Made it very far in the tournament last year, so it'll be good to see what they can do this year. Blacksmith has returned, and Blacksmith is now coming with this hammer saw weapon similar to Scorpios and Sawblaze. And I feel like if they had this weapon dialed in, Blacksmith could be a legit contender because they've always been known for their durability. Blacksmith is solid. It can take hit after hit after hit and just keep going. So if they still have the durability and now have an active weapon that can do damage, they could be legit contenders. Because while their flaming hammer was cool, it never really did that much damage. But if this hammer saw has some power to it, they could go pretty far. And then next up is Blade. A lot of people were calling it Orby Blade, but Orby is just the name of their team, and the robot is simply called Blade. Why?
because it has a massive blade. Now, one thing that's cool about this team is they are a team from South Korea. So it is the first South Korean team to make its BattleBots. And not gonna lie, their robot kind of looks like Hypershock and Tombstone had a baby. And it looks pretty potent. It looks pretty well built too. So excited to see what they can pull off. Bloodsport has also returned. They're one of my personal favorites. I really like the way they look. They are one of the most well-driven full-body spinners. Well, I don't know if you count them as a full-body spinner, but they are one of the best driven that have a weapon that spins around the entirety of the robot. So, yeah, really hoping they make it far. And then Blip is a new robot that is being brought by the same team that brought Tantrum, and it is a flipper. And its flipper looks pretty powerful from what videos I've seen on it, and it's also very, very small and compact. Usually we see flippers, they are pretty big and bulky and don't have a whole lot of maneuverability, but Blip seems to be small and fast, just like Tantrum. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what Blip can do. And then we have Captain Shredderator, who is returning again. They've never had that much success, but last season was one of their strongest seasons in the reboot. So I'm more than excited to see what Captain Shredderator can do this year. Claw Viper is also returning. Not a whole lot to say here. They were one of the fastest teams last year, and hopefully they've ironed out their bugs. Copperhead is returning, another really super powerful drum spinner. And yeah, really looking forward to what they can do. Cobalt is back after a couple seasons out. They were known for having one of the most powerful vertical spinners. So yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, we have a lot of really powerful teams competing this year. And Deadlift is making their second appearance. They weren't all that great last year. They didn't get very much airtime, but they seem to have completely rebuilt their robot and have this arm thing. It kind of reminds me of Overhaul, the way their grappler lifter system was. And one thing I want to note is they have these little bars on the side that are used to lift the robot, but those look like they can either A, get torn off very easily, or just look like something that a spinner can hook on and just flip them over, or vertical. If the horizontal hits it right, it could potentially rip off the entire side. So I don't know about that. And then Deep Six is also making a return after being out a couple seasons. Now, originally their weapon bar was 110 pounds, and BattleBots is like, yo, that's too dangerous. Weapon bars can only be 80 pounds now. So their weapon bar is slightly smaller, and they took that extra weight and kind of beefed up the rest of the robot. So they could be pretty powerful this season. Their weapon had the power. They were just a glass cannon. You know, once they dished out one hit, they kind of destroyed themselves in the process. So hopefully that won't happen this year. Double Jeopardy is back. From what I've heard, this season they will now have 3 shots. And yeah, I'm really hoping to see what this cannon can do. I really love the idea of having a cannon in BattleBots. And the last season, which I believe was 2 seasons ago when they competed, they were much more solid. Where even after they shot their cannon and was reduced to a wedge bot, they could still sit there and take some punishment. So really want to see what they can do. I just want to see that cannon hit something. Defender is a new bot that's being brought by the same team that brought Whiplash. Seems to be a more innovative grappler lifter bot. So yeah, we'll see what it can do. Dragon Slayer is a new team competing this year. And it's another vertical spinner. Not a whole lot to say there. Duck is back. and seems to be pretty similar to how it has been, except its beak now seems to be more like a lifter grabber, so they'll have more of an actual weapon and hopefully do some more control instead of just sitting there and taking a beating and hoping the other team destroys themselves. Free shipping has returned, and yeah, never been that successful, but their fights are always entertaining, so it'll be good to see what they can do. In-game is returning, and the robot looks fairly similar. They're coming off of winning the championship last year, so we'll have to see what they can do this year. Fusion is returning, and I honestly did not think they would bring Fusion back. Usually, when Team Waiachi tries out a new robot and it doesn't do that great, they just sort of scrap it and move on. And last year, Fusion had a lot of issues with gyroscopic physics and the robot just catching on fire. Hopefully that won't happen this year. Hopefully they got everything ironed out because its weapons are insanely powerful. Ghost Raptor is returning. Aesthetically, they look a lot different, but from what I've heard, the robot is basically the same. Glitch is another new team. They have this sort of weird triangle shape. They kind of look... They kind of look very, very slim, but they have Omni wheels, and, yeah. They have an egg beater spinner, and those type of spinners have been proven to be very, very powerful, so we'll just have to see what they can do. Gigabyte is returning, and Gigabyte, as of now, is probably the best full-body spinner that's in the competition. They were very durable last year, made it pretty far in the tournament, and yeah, they could go pretty far this year. Gruff is back and has made some changes. Hijinks has returned, and they look pretty similar to last year. They did pretty decent last year, so hopefully this year they've ironed out all their first-year bugs and can do a lot better. Hydra is returning. They are currently the king flipper, especially since Bronco has left, so yeah. They will probably do very well again this season. They've proven to be a force to be reckoned with. Huge is back, and Huge is personally my favorite team, one of my favorite teams, and the robot looks pretty similar to last season, but they have said that they have made a lot of internal improvements that aren't really noticeable, but yeah, they have proven that they can win some fights. They just get a lot of unlucky draws, and hopefully they've gotten everything ironed out, because if Huge has everything dialed in, I feel like they could get a giant nut. Hypershock is returning, and Hypershock always has the potential to do well. They just can't get their crap together until late in the season. So hopefully they can come out strong, but we'll have to see. Ice Wave is back in the main competition this year, and they are the only robot with a gas-powered engine or an internal combustion engine. I love internal combustion engines, and I wish we had more of them in BattleBots. For those who don't know, I actually took auto tech in high school, which is where we work on cars and all that kind of stuff. So I love seeing battle robots with internal combustion engines, and I would love to see more. Pardon My French is an interesting robot. It's very small, very compact, and has a massive drum spinner. So we have to see what it can do. Jackpot is returning team and have the home field advantage, I guess, since they are from Las Vegas, and BattleBots takes place in Las Vegas. They were the cheapest robot competing last year, and they did very, very well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do. Jaeger is another new team from Germany, and they are a multi-bot team. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of multi-bot teams, We've never really seen a multi-bot team that has been very effective, because usually whenever they have these smaller robots, they're just weaker and get bullied around by a full-size bot. So I'm excited to see what Jaeger can do, but we've never seen a multi-bot team do that well, and I don't have a lot of hopes for them. Kraken is returning, and I believe they might be the only Crusher in the field this season. Petunia applied, but got rejected, which kind of made me mad, because next to Kraken, Petunia was my favorite Crusher. Anyway, Kraken is returning, and I just want to say I'm proud of Kraken, because the first season they competed in, they just kind of seemed like a janky one-off bot, like someone that was like one of those bots that gets accepted pretty late, doesn't do that well, then is never heard from again. But Kraken has proven to be legit contenders. And yeah, they're very tough, very durable, and they beat Witch Doctor, so that should say something. Lucky has returned. Always been a sort of a mid-tier bot, never really done a whole lot, but with the lack of Flipper, with the lack of Bronco, apart from Hydra, there's a lot of competition for Flippers, and I'd imagine all of these Flippers competing now are probably trying to work them way up to being known as the dominant Flipper. So yeah, we'll have to see what Lucky can do. Lockjaw is returning, always a tough competitor, so yeah, we'll see what Lockjaw can do this season. Mad Catter has returned, and they have this unorthodox, asymmetrical spinner. As you can see, once the spinner is not centered like you would normally see, but I really, really love this paint job. And I'm almost sad to see it fight, because that paint job is just going to get all scratched up, and it's just really, really beautiful. And last year was a very good year for them. They got curb stomped by Tombstone in the tournament, but they did very, very well outside of that. So, yeah. I can't wait to see what Mad Catter can do. Malice is returning. They had a pretty impressive rookie season, and they have a very unique weapon with their their weapon is horizontal. They took a vertical spinner and flipped it horizontal, which I think is pretty interesting, and it was pretty powerful last year. And I've heard they have what they call a bunny tail on the back of it to kind of prevent it from getting stuck up on its back, because that's how it lost one of its matches. And I think that's pretty good. That's pretty cool that they have something to counter that now. And if it's a bunny tail, then it kind of fits with the whole rabbit theme that Malice has going. So, yeah. Minotaur, the Brazilian Bull, is back. They unfortunately missed last year due to COVID and some other personal reasons. But they are back. And Minotaur has always been one of the most feared bots. I would say at this point, they're kind of up there with Tombstone in terms of destructive power. So, really, really looking forward to seeing what Minotaur can do this year. Mammoth has returned, and the bot itself looks a bit smaller, but their weapon bar looks absolutely massive. You know, at first, everyone has kind of took them as this weird, janky, quirky junk bot that was super tall, and no one really expected it to do much. But it's proven that it can be legit. It can win matches. And now that it's got this massive weapon bar, they should be able to lift and throw and bully bots around even more. And I've also heard they've doubled their chains this season, so hopefully they won't have to worry about their chains breaking in every match, rendering their weapon useless. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Mammoth can do. And then Overhaul has returned. They missed the last few seasons, and their bot looks pretty similar. I think it's a completely new robot, but it looks similar to their other bot they competed with. I'd have to go back and look at it. I think the old version didn't have exposed wheels, yet now they do. And we don't see the back of it, but I wonder if they still have their anime girl painted on the back. Because that pissed a lot of people off, because there are a lot of people who hate anime. But it's kind of cool for them being known as the Weeb bot. Sorry, my nose is getting kind of stopped up. P1, the race car bot, is returning, and they've never been super successful, yet had some shining moments last year, so we'll have to see what they can pull off this year. Perfect Phoenix, driven by the 11 or now 12-year-old, is returning. Had some pretty good moments last year, so looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. I don't know what kind of improvements they've made, because apparently this bot is very, very old. It was known as Brutality, and Ray Billings, who is actually Tyler's stepdad, made some upgrades to it, and it was pretty potent last year. And hopefully Tyler's driving has gotten better, so we'll have to see what they can do this year. Next up is Pain Train. They were a new team last year, and they did okay. They didn't do that great, but they weren't bad. So hopefully they made a lot of improvements, and looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. Yeah. Rampage has returned, and they look a million times better than they did last year. They still look like a pretty basic, pretty generic vertical spinner, but compared to what they were last year, they look like they've improved a lot. They were one of the jankier bots last year, and they look more legit this year, so looking forward to seeing what they can do. And next up is Retrograde. I believe this is another robot that is being brought by the same team that's behind Whiplash. I might be wrong. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know. No. This one is being brought by Bloodsport's team, I believe. And on the front is just a lifter, but I believe they have an undercutter on the back. So I guess they can maybe grab a bot and flip it over, get it off balance, and then whip around and hit it with that undercutter. If that's true, I'm pretty sure. I haven't heard anyone else talk about that, but I'm pretty sure they have an undercutter on the back side of their bot, but I could be wrong. And next up is Riptide, who have a pretty unique looking weapon. It kind of looks like an egg beater spinner, but extra wide. I guess it's considered a vertical drum. Let's see what they call it here. Egg beater spinner. So yeah, it's just an egg beater that is insanely wide. So yeah, interesting. And then Ribot is returning. They're a team that no one really thought would do as well as they did last year, and they did very, very well. So looking forward to seeing what they can pull off this year. Rotator is back, and Rotator has proven to be a top contender, and they have gone all in with the gold aesthetic. Gotta respect the drip. Nice shoes, by the way. And Rusty, everyone's favorite, the one-man band Dave Eaton, is back with Rusty 2.0. The old Rusty version 1 has been retired because Dave doesn't want to see it get completely destroyed. But the one-man band is back with Rusty 2, and Rusty looks a lot more stout. He's gotten rid of his little jackhammer puncturing spike thing for what looks like a more traditional hammer. And from what I've heard, the outer layer is still scrap metal, but everything underneath is pretty legit. It's not 100% scrap he found lying around like last year's Rusty. So Rusty, of course, is a fan favorite, and really looking forward. I want to see Rusty do good. I love Dave Eaton. Rusty's unironically one of my favorite bots. So yeah. Shatter is back, and they have a sick looking weapon here. And their whole robot just looks really good. And they're one of the top hammer bots. So we're really looking forward to seeing what Shatter can pull off. Sawblaze is returning, one of the top hammer saw bots. Looking forward to seeing what they do this season. Scorpios is also returning, and it looks like they have a new weapon, so it'll be nice to see what they can do with that. Slammo is returning, and last year was a pretty good year for them. They had some pretty nice moments suplexing some robots, so it'll be nice to see what Slammo can do this year. Sub-Zero is back, and Sub-Zero was never known to be all that great, yet last season they looked fairly impressive, so it'll be good to see what Sub-Zero can do this year. And they also still have Spitfire, and they are now the only team, well, they were the only one last year, and I believe they're the only team this year to have a drone, so, yeah. And then Smee is returning. They look mostly the same, except now they have went silver and black instead of their blue color scheme they had last year. They are a very weird robot. And they proved that their idea has some potential. Those little undercutter spinners worked kind of well, and they're just such a weird shape. It's just kind of hard to deal with. So yeah, I definitely looking forward to seeing more weirdness from Smee. You know, I'm always a fan of builders bringing these really unorthodox designs to BattleBots, so really looking forward to seeing what Smee can pull off this year. Tantrum is back, and Tantrum surprised a lot of people last year with their unique punching vertical spinner. They did very well last year, and I feel like they could go pretty far again this year. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what Tantrum does. Switchback is a new bot competing this year, and they have this weird articulated vertical spinner thing. Not really sure what to think of this. It's very strange looking. Yeah, don't know how to feel about that. Tombstone is back and looks surprisingly different. Looks mostly the same, but looks like Tombstone has made some upgrades. And, yeah, still looks terrifying and is still probably going to destroy almost everything it touches. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what Ray brings this year. Uppercut is back, did very, very well last year. And, yeah, they've also brought back their mini-bot, Helping Hand. So we'll see what that does for them. I don't really think they needed it because they did very well last year without a mini-bot. So, yeah. Whiplash is returning, and hopefully they don't fall victim to the whole curse of runner-up teams doing badly the next year. That's probably the weirdest way to word that. But, yeah, Whiplash is back, and hopefully they have the same success they had last year. Valkyrie is returning, and Valkyrie is another one of my favorite bots. They are proved to be very, very durable last year, as well as a very, very powerful undercutter spinner. And, yeah, really looking forward to seeing what they can pull off next year. Witch Doctor is back, and the robot looks similar, but surprisingly different. It looks a bit longer than it did last year, and they've always been a top-tier bot, and another one of my favorites, so looking forward to seeing what Witch Doctor can do. I know I've been saying that a lot, but, I mean, I don't really know what else to say. And then finally, rounding out is Yeti. Yeti is back. And Yeti has always been pretty powerful. They were not competing the last few seasons, but they are back and look to be bit redesigned, and they still have their massive drum spinner, so looking forward to seeing that in action. Yeah, this whole field of bots this year just looks to be pretty potent. We don't have there are a lot of teams that are competing this season that look like they have the potential to win the giant nut. As of right now, we have not seen any fights yet. We have no clue when it's going to be airing, but we have a lot of very good robots this year. A lot that could potentially win the giant nut. So, really looking forward to this season of BattleBots. And yeah, that just about wraps up my thoughts on all the bots that are competing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.